98% of people are stuck at the very same step. I've been developing for the last 8.5 years here in Nashville, Tennessee. I've developed an 8-figure pipeline. I have rezoned, subdivided, built luxury, townhomes, all the things. If you ever wondered how to go from a piece of dirt to an actual sold property, this video is for you. In this video, I go through the 7 steps of the development process, from site selection, feasibility study, land acquisition and due diligence, to entitlements, design and permits, pre-construction, construction, and finally the sale, how to close out your project. Let's get started. Let's talk about site selection. You can go so many different ways about finding your deal. Now, I always recommend, if you can, drive in neighborhoods and have a notebook next to you, take some notes on properties that you see that could be a really good fit for redevelopment. Definitely do that. However, you don't have to be local. You just need to make sure that you master that area, that you understand what's really driving the growth of that specific neighborhood. So you need to understand your population growth, right? Where's the next grocery store? Is it a good school zone district if you're trying to do residential? Depending on what you're trying to develop, you need to really understand well your local economics, that specific area that you're trying to develop. Next, you want to build a network. You want to make sure you get to know agents, wholesalers, people in your market that you're looking to develop in that actually are the movers and shakers. That's how you build your inbound lead flow. If you don't know what a buy box is, we do have another video on that. We also even did a workshop earlier this year. If you have an interest in that, just comment buy box down below and we'll send you a link to it. Now, it's really important though that you build your network and you let them know what you're after, what you're looking for, right? So we've even had some members that found land in a different state because they networked well with agents there and they found deals that way, right? So you can find deals through your network, through driving for dollars, also just having an MLS, multiple listing search set up so that you see the deals that are popping up. That's really important, and pretty much everything that there is for general site selection. So now we actually get deals sent to us. But what makes us move forward? And that is the feasibility study. You need to understand how to actually underwrite a deal, whether the deal is feasible. So it's important for you to understand the financials, but also, are the utilities on site? Is this actually developable? Just how important networking is to find a site, it's really important for you to build your team. So you need to know your surveyor, like any kind of civil engineer, architect, people at the city, if you're in a rural area, the codes department there. But you've got to have your team so that when you have a deal, you can also run it by them, make sure everything checks out. But it's also very, very important for you to make sure that you have utilities on site. So definitely request all the water, sewer maps and stormwater maps. Otherwise, that could be a very expensive surprise. Let's just say the deal checks out. This is making money and it makes sense and you're moving forward. Well, next is the actual acquisition of that property. So how do you acquire the property? You need to make sure that you're working with a title company that you trust. And if you don't have an agent, then you just have to make sure that you're covering all your bases there with a title attorney in the contract. But if you're working with an agent, you need to make sure that the agent actually is knowledgeable in how to draft a contract from a developer standpoint, especially if you're going into larger deals, right? For a residential deal, we just need to make sure that we have enough due diligence time, right? We need to make sure that we can do all the actual due diligence that we need to do. So in the initial feasibility study, you're just seeing, okay, does it make sense to move forward, right? But now the land acquisition is actually when you're really diving into the full due diligence process, right? Where you're really making sure you're coming up with the plans, you get your financing together, all the different things there that are involved to take down a deal. So the land acquisition, following that feasibility study, and moves you directly into the due diligence phase. We've got a quick due diligence and a full-blown due diligence. So let's talk about how we go from contract due diligence to a closing. So again, make sure you have a proper contract set up that allows you for enough due diligence, right? So then during the due diligence period, and again, if you're trying to do townhomes, you need to have at least like 120 days, if not 180. Make sure that like you're really able to pull everything together. If you're just doing a single family luxury or whatnot, you gotta make sure that the comps check out so that in that area you're able to sell where you need to sell, but also that ultimately you get the financing, right? And then once we have that due diligence like finalized, that's actually when we prepare for closing. So this entire time you're working with the title company, with an agent that tells you where you can sell at and what price, and whether that all checks out with the city, whether really the land and everything else there on site checks out. And then with your architect, civil engineer, your team, you make sure that all of these things work out. So then you arrive at the closing table and it's time for you to close on the property. So depending on how you're funding the deal, you're gonna have to jump through some of those hoops, right? So maybe you have a private money lender that could be asset-backed, or you've got just an investor that is doing the deal with you and it's on an equity basis, right? You just split the profits. Maybe you're working with a bank. So you got to make sure that during that due diligence time, you obviously wrap all of those things up. If you're working with a JV agreement or whatnot, you need to make sure all of those contracts are solid. And then you arrive at the closing table. And then we're getting ready to move into the next stage, which is entitlements. So sometimes you may need to still subdivide a property if you couldn't do that in the due diligence period, or you need to rezone something. Again, we always try to get as much as we can in the due diligence time done, but sometimes you can't and you close on it and then you do what you need to do. So let's say now you're ready, it's already zoned for your needs and it's already subdivided or everything there on the entitlement side is done. Now, from there, we move into the design stage. So we always try to do as much as we can in the due diligence phase, right? So once you close, you're essentially then getting started with really finalizing as much as you can on the entitlement side, which means that now we're really paying attention to finalizing the design, right? So that we know, okay, hey, this is what we're going to be submitting for permits. But it also includes if you still have to do entitlements for example, a rezone or a subdivision and whatnot. So like ultimately it kind of depends on what you're looking at, like developing. So you are moving from the land side first, making sure that you have all your entitlements done there, to then your vertical, right? If you are deciding to go vertical, which as a developer, you don't always have to. We also just have worked on rezonings and getting them up zoned to the highest and best use. And then we've sold property, right? So when you're closing the property, then you're really moving into finalizing as much as you can there as quickly as you can on whatever is still open from that due diligence phase. And so the design phase, again, you have kind of like a two-step prompt to it. So it's a kind of a pre-construction piece where you've got your conceptual design first, and then you actually have your final plans that you're working on or whatnot, so that you're getting it submitted to the authorities, right, to get your permits and whatnot. So ultimately, the entitlement, design, and permit phase is kind of like really that simultaneous period where you're just trying to do a lot of things like at the same time and as fast as you can. Well, then you go for your permits, right? So you need to make sure, depending on what you build, you're pulling the right permits. So if it is a townhome deal, you're gonna have a master, we call them children or child permits. And if you just have a single family luxury, then you gotta make sure you got your building permit. Now, if there is a structure on the property before, you always go for a demo permit first, right? And then you roll from demo to actually building permit. But ultimately, that is all the phase that follows post your closing. Now, for pre-construction, you may have to do some erosion control, right? Like put up a silt fence and clear out some brush or whatever. Like that is all part of the pre-construction, right? We're prepping the lot essentially. And now once we're done with the pre-construction, we're moving into the construction phase. So how do we move from the pre-construction to the construction phase? Well, again, if you decided to move forward and you're actually going vertical, then now you're working hand in hand with your builder, just really setting up everything there for construction. So you already should have your construction loan. Again, depending on how you've structured your deal, you may have even gotten your construction loan at the very, very beginning at closing, but you don't have to. So you can also just close on the land and then work towards the construction loan when you are having all of the paperwork together. It just really depends like how you're structuring the project. We've done it both ways. We have taken down land and then just worked on entitlements and applied for a construction loan later. But we have also tied up everything before in the due diligence period prior to closing and then closed on the full construction loan. So you can do it either way. It just really depends on what deal you're looking at and also, your comfort level. I do prefer having everything ready really all at once because that way you know you have the construction lending secured. But sometimes you just got to move on land, right? We're officially moving into the construction phase. Now it's important for you to manage the builder, right? If that's not yourself, which I always recommend to you if you are starting your first development project, you do want to hire a builder. You want to make sure that you have a weekly meeting set up. Super, super important with your builder, with your team. You want to make sure you have a bookkeeper so that your books are always neat. Ideally, you meet with them maybe every 2 weeks in the beginning. It might be even just like the first month, and then you move into it more every 2 weeks when you have just more invoices and things going on. But when you're working with a builder, you want to make sure you have backup invoices at all times. So make sure you really know exactly what's being paid where and to whom. So that way you're staying organized, and also you're developing that feeling of understanding what things really cost currently. So that is really your construction phase. And you want to make sure you go by the site regularly. Take photos of every single room. Make sure that you have documentation. That can really play a big role if something happens later on and you need to know, okay, what's exactly behind this wall? Or you need like an engineering letter because maybe the builder messed up on something and you didn't have the inspection. So it's important for you to really document everything very well, okay? And so you're gonna run into some hurdles, most likely at some point during construction. So you just gotta take a deep breath and work through it. But it's very important that you are choosing a builder that you deeply trust, and always make sure you background check their references, have walked previous construction sites of theirs, and talk to other clients of theirs. As you're finishing your framing and whatnot, you gotta make a decision whether you're pre-selling your product or not. If you don't decide to pre-sell, then you're gonna finish the full construction phase and you move into your sales process. If you are looking to pre-sell your project, you gotta make sure that you're able to show potential buyers what the final is really gonna look like. So you're probably gonna get some renderings, maybe even some boards with all the textures and finishes, so that people can visualize what it is you're putting out there and that they can make a decision whether they wanna move forward or not. It's really important that you choose the right realtors to work with, right? So if it is a multi-unit project, then you've got to make sure that you have a website and that the marketing is top-notch, right? If you're doing a single-family luxury, you got to make sure that it looks really superb on the marketing side so that you're able to move this property easily. So you got to make sure that your realtor is really working for you and that they're best positioning your project so that you're not end up sitting on the product longer than necessary. So on the sales side, obviously you're getting ready to also close out the project. So it's really important that you meet with your bookkeeper, make sure that as you're going through your project, ideally you capitalize it in the book so you have it on your balance sheet. And then when you're selling it, you move it from the balance sheet to actually the P&L. And so it's important that you also have a bookkeeper that is used to working these type of deals and knows how to account for it. In that sales stage, you're really basically closing out the entire project. Make sure you've got all the final invoices, make sure that people get paid. And then ultimately, you gotta make sure that you have a realtor that also gets you in the right sales contract so that you have a smooth experience selling the property. When working with a realtor that's selling your deal, you also gotta make sure that the sales contract is really negotiated properly for your purposes. Are you gonna offer a blue tape walkthrough? Are you going to offer a builder warranty? Like all these things, you got to make sure you have a good and thorough understanding, like with your builder, ideally even before you get started in building, but having a copy of their builder warranty contract and that the realtor knows like what you can actually offer a potential buyer. But ultimately, yeah, once you're under contract, you're just going to make sure that you're getting through inspections as smoothly as possible and you close the deal. I hope you got so much out of this video. I laid out the entire development process in 7 steps. If you're ready to take action and you want support around this, message me START on Instagram and my team will be in touch with you on how to work with us. If you're not ready to start just yet and you would like to see the 7 steps that I just walked you through, click the link below. That is my free roadmap that's going to lay out all the steps that I just went through in even more detail. I hope to see you in the next video.